Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it won't go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it won't go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got sugar. Baby's got corrosion now. Corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Good morning from planet Earth. Can you guys hear me okay? Am I a little too loud? Maybe a little too loud. Let's bring this down a little bit. So this is kind of as you can see, I revamped the show, kind of streamlining it a little bit, trying to get it from, being too clunky. The graphics, I'm never satisfied with stuff. So that, so ta-da! You get to see a little more of me. Yeah. I made this wider because I'm getting fatter. So now you can see more of my chub. Good morning, Wesley. Too much coffee. Yes, please. Oops. See, already got something going on already. Hang on a second. Let's turn that off. Keep that on. Let's try that again. There we go. Too much coffee. Yes, please. So this is a hybrid test stream / we're going to actually talk about some news stuff this morning. CBC voter shouting out everybody. What's up? Good to see you. Little Sunday morning action as the Lee Greenwood thumbnail shows all this crazy stuff going on. I forgot to add Israeli bullshit on the but there was so much stuff it was chock full. I think we understand that there's Israeli bullshit stuff. So anyway, let's get to something here. If I can get this set up okay. And we'll see how this works. Will it work? Kumbaya? Yes. Uh-oh. Hello. That's all right. Interesting. It's teeny tiny down there. Oh, I think I know why. We'll figure that out later. So, hey, what's up, Max? Good to see you. Fakoff? Is that like Kofefi? Kofefi. What's up, Chuck? Need some coffee. There's always coffee down here, but there's always bullshit, too. So, terrifying line is being crossed, warns Minneapolis mayor as more ICE horror stories emerge. This is from Common Dreams. So Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry is warning that the Trump administration has crossed a terrifying line with its use of federal immigration enforcement agents to brutalize and abduct people in his city. In an interview with the New York Times published, yesterday, Fry described operations that have taken place in his city as marauding gangs of guys just walking down the street, indiscriminately picking people up. That sounds like me on a Saturday night. Not really. Liking it to a military invasion. During the interview, Fry was asked what he made of Attorney General Pam Bondi's recent offer to withdraw ICE forces from his city if Minnesota handed over its voter registration records to the federal government. Yes, that's a thing. It was never about immigration. They want to get those registration rules. They want to get everybody in the mix. That is wildly unconstitutional, Fry replied. We should all be standing up and saying that's not okay. Literally, listen to what they're saying. Active threats like turn over the voter rolls or else, or we will continue to do what we're doing. That's something you can do in America now. Well, as long as you let it. Fry was also asked about Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's comments from earlier in the week, where he likened the administration's invasion of Minneapolis to the first battle that took place during the U.S. Civil War in Fort Sumter. I don't think he's saying that the Civil War is going to happen, said Fry. I think what he's saying is that a significant and terrifying line is being crossed, and I would agree with that. No, a civil war would actually mean people rising up and actually doing something. That's yet to be seen. As Fry issued warnings about the federal government's actions in Minneapolis, more horror stories have emerged involving U.S. ICE agents in Minnesota. The AP reported yesterday that staff at the Hennepin County Medical Center in Minneapolis have been raising red flags over ICE agents' claims about Alberto Castaneda Mondragon. That's a cool name. A Mexican immigrant whom they treated after he suffered a shattered skull earlier this month. ICE agents who brought Castaneda Mondrago to the hospital told staffers that he had injured himself after he purposefully ran headfirst into a brick wall while trying to escape their custody. Nurses who treated Castaneda Mondrago, however, said that there is no way that running headfirst into a wall could produce the sheer number of skull fractures he suffered, let alone the internal bleeding found throughout his brain. It was laughable if there was something to laugh about, one nurse at the hospital told the AP. There was no way this person ran headfirst into a wall unless he had some help. What's up, Wesley? I forgot to say hi to you, but I think I did. Wait, the most intensive surveillance state in the history of mankind doesn't have the... I know. Not yet. They have to pry them away from the states, and by doing that, they use these Gestapo tactics. According to a Saturday report in the New York Times, concern over ICE's brutality has grown to such an extent that many Minnesota residents, including both documented immigrants and U.S. citizens, have started wearing passports around their necks to avoid being potentially targeted. Interesting. Joa Su Thao, a 75-year-old U.S. citizen who came to the country after aiding the American military during the Vietnam War, said the aggressive actions of immigration officers have left him with little choice but to display his passport whenever he walks outside his house. We need to be ready before they point a gun to us, Thao explained to the Times. CNN on Friday reported that ICE has been rounding up refugees living in Minnesota who were allowed to enter the U.S. after undergoing, quote, a rigorous years-long vetting process and sending them to a facility in Texas where they are being prepared for deportation. If Texas is still up and running after that ice storm last week. Lawyers representing the abducted refugees told CNN that their clients have been forced to recount painful asylum claims with limited or no contact with family members or attorneys. Some of the refugees taken to Texas have been released from custody, but instead of being flown back home, they were released in Texas without money, identification, or phones, CNN reported. Kind of sounds like that kid that was picked up at the Target. I can't remember where it was. It was maybe somewhere in Florida, I think. And they picked him up. Turns out he was legal. They picked up the wrong person. So they dumped him off at Walmart. Yeah, these guys are fucking assholes. Lori Ball Cooper, Vice President for U.S. Legal Programs at the International Refugee Assistance Project, told CNN that government agents abducting refugees who had previously been allowed into the U.S. as part of a campaign of terror that is designed to scare people. Yes, we've been saying that a lot on this show, that using scare tactics. And what does that mean? They're using fear tactics to control you and to control me and control everybody. Control. It's not just a Janet Jackson song. Now I'm all grown up. Control. Remember that song? Do. Finger Man. What's up? Hey, all. I'm exhausted. You have a busy night last night, bud? Everything okay? So like I said, this is, let me turn that down. I think I'm overmodulated a little bit. If you hear any sound weirdness, just let me know. Besides what I'm actually saying, that doesn't count. I mean, it does count, but you know, but I'm testing some stuff here. So let me see something here. Okay, that works. Oh yeah, road trip. I love road trips, man. I used to take them when I was younger. When I lived in Mississippi, me and a buddy from Minnesota who I worked with, we would go back to his state with his wife and their puppers, and go up there for rock concerts in the middle of cow pastures in Wisconsin. Okay, bud. Fair enough. Traffic jam I-70 westward last night. I don't know if you guys listen to that guy, Max Velocity. Kind of intense, degreed meteorologist, but he's been doing a lot of coverage of, these ice storms and snowstorms, mostly throughout the Midwest, South, and the Northeast, and some of the East Coast. Florida, I think Florida got some got some snow over the weekend, over the last couple of days. Crazy. Florida snow is that's not a thing. Usually it isn't. Is that Max Headroom's kid? Who, me? I might be. Probably not. Just looking over here for a second. No rock shows, visit with sons. My oldest looked terrible, but very happy, not obviously abused. Well, that's good. Well, I'm not the terrible part. That's not good. What else do we got here? This is, let me just kind of explain how I'm kind of streaming down the format. The show's not going to be 2.5 hours anymore. That's just way too long. I mean, it's a lot of news, but we're going to try and streamline it a little bit. We'll still have this bad boy.
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things they think are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah, so that guy. We'll still have that, and hopefully we'll have this. It's supposed to go back to the other thing. I don't know why I didn't do that. Oh, I know why. Okay. Maybe I can fix this in here. In the meanwhile, how's everybody doing this morning? Everything good on your end? What's good, fam? As they say. Okay. So that's our breaking news bug down there. Let me take that off. So we got like a little weather here for Chicago, in case you were wondering. Or if you were wondering if you want to know what day and time it is, we got that too. Kate, good morning. Hello. How are you? Still raining up there in Canada where you're at? Let's see here. So I wasn't really prepared for an actual show this morning. So this is kind of a sneak preview. LA Olympics chief Wasserman issues Maxwell apology but denies Epstein ties. Ooh. Let's see. Let's check out this spicy goodness. Let's see if we can do this. So there, that face. Oh. Los Angeles 2028 Olympics chief Casey Wasserman has apologized for communicating with convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell more than 20 years ago after the publication of a series of personal emails between the two. I know there was a big document dump on Friday, and a lot of people are like, oh man, I should have never done anything with Jeffrey Epstein. I sure never. Well, you probably should have thought about that at the time, genius. What happened? Oh, you can listen to her 57-minute playlist from Friday's show, including sitar and tabla, Hanuman songs, and even a bunch of protest songs. There's the link right there. We're just on YouTube today, so we're just doing YouTube for this. No rain this morning. Last night it was raining. Yes. Yeah, we had some snow come off the lake here. But nothing too crazy. It's still the frozen tundra here. I don't even know what the temperature is right now. Oh, wait, I do know what the temperature is. It's just too tiny to see. It's 24 right now. So new files related to the late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, Maxwell's former boyfriend, published by the U.S. Department of Justice on Friday, included flirtatious email exchanges between Wasserman, who was married at the time, and Maxwell, dating from 2003. Yikes. Oops. Maxwell is serving a 20-year prison sentence after being found guilty in 2021 by a jury in New York on charges including sex trafficking of a minor. Epstein died allegedly in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial. I never had a personal or business relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, Wasserman said in a statement on Sunday. No, not me. No, sir. No, sir. I am terribly sorry for having any association with either of them. Maxwell was arrested in 2020 after being accused by federal prosecutors of recruiting and grooming girls for sexual encounters with Epstein between 1994 and 2004. 20 degrees there. Yeah, unless you're on the West Coast, man, you're probably getting pretty chilly. The International Olympic Committee, which works very closely with Wasserman in preparation for the Summer Olympic Games, refused to comment on the matter. Gee, I wonder why. I believe Mr. Wasserman has put out his statement, and we have nothing further to add. IOC President Kirsty Coventry said in a press conference before the start of next week's Milano Cortina Olympics. Asked whether the Wasserman emails were a distraction shortly before the Milano Games, Coventry said there had been past Olympics that were dogged by stories prior to their start, such as the Zika virus before the Rio de Janeiro 2016 Olympics. Yes, the Zika virus, totally comparable to sex offenders. Wait, that was That's not true. Anything that is distracting from these games is sad, Coventry said, but we have learned over the many years that there has always been something that has taken the lead leading up to the games. What is keeping my faith alive is when the opening ceremony happens, suddenly the world remembers the magic and spirit the games have, they said. And don't forget how it ruins the local economy, too. You can ask Rio de Janeiro about that. Wasserman is a sports and entertainment executive who has been leading the LA 28 Olympic project from the bidding phase and currently serves as chairman of the organizing committee, which is due to deliver a progress report to the IOC session on Tuesday. The 2028 Summer Olympics were awarded to the city in 2017. So, yeah. Yes, indeed, Chuck. There are a lot of scumbags. This is like Scumbag Central down here. Especially with all this ICE stuff going on, right? This is fun. Okay, so apparently there's that Melania Trump movie, the documentary, that is just getting hammered by the critics and everybody else as a scowling void of pure nothingness. Critics destroy $75 million Melania Trump documentary. Why do you need $75 million to make a documentary like that? That's like $1.50 and maybe some fried chicken or something. So this is by Brad Reed. So critics have weighed in on Amazon MGM Studios documentary about First Lady Melania Trump, and their verdicts are overwhelmingly negative. Negative. According to review aggregation website Metacritic, Melania, which Amazon paid $40 million to acquire and $35 million to market, so far has received a collective score of just 6 out of 100 from critics, which indicates overwhelming dislike. The 6 I'm very skeptical of as being critics. I think it may have been Trump, Melania, Barron Trump, Jared Kushner, his daughter, I can't remember her name right now, and then somebody else. Those are the 6. Similarly, Melania scores a mere 6% on Rotten Tomatoes tomometer, indicating that 94% of reviews for the movie so far have been negative. One particularly brutal review came from Nick Hilton, film critic for The Independent, who said that the First Lady came off in the film as a, quote, preening, scowling void of pure nothingness who leads a vulgar, gilded lifestyle. That's not just in the film. That's real life, too. Hilton added that the film is so terrible that it fails even at being effective propaganda and is likely to be remembered as a striking artifact of a time when Americans willingly subordinated themselves to a political and economic oligopoly, right? The Guardian's Zan Brooks delivered a similarly scathing assessment, declaring the film dispiriting, deadly, and unrevealing. Deadly? Wow. I guess if you watch it, you want to kill yourself, I guess. It's one of those rare unicorn films that doesn't have a single redeeming quality, Brooks elaborated. I'm not even sure it qualifies as a documentary exactly so much as an elaborate piece of designer taxidermy. Ooh, horribly overpriced and ice cold to the touch and proffered like a medieval tribute to placate the greedy king on his throne. So Donald Clark of the Irish Times also discussed the film's failure as a piece of propaganda, and he compared it unfavorably to the work of Nazi propagandist Leni Riefenstahl. Melania appears keener on inducing narcolepsy in its viewers than energizing them into massed marching, he wrote. Triumph of the dull, perhaps. Triumph of the dull. Variety's Owen Gleiberman argued that the Melania documentary is utterly devoid of anything approaching dramatic stakes, which results in the film suffering from staggering inertia. Mostly it's inert, Dearman wrote of the film. It feels like it's been stitched together out of the most innocuous outtakes from a reality show. There's no drama to it. It should have been called Day of the Living Trad Wife. I guess that's the traditional wife thing. Frank Scheck of The Hollywood Reporter found that the movie mostly exposes Melania Trump in an empty vessel, or Trump is an empty vessel without a single original thought or insight, instead deploying an endless number of inspirational phrases seemingly cribbed from self-help books. Kevin Fallon of the Daily Beast described Melania as, quote, an unbelievable abomination of filmmaking that reaches a level of insipid propaganda that almost resists review. It's so expected, Fallon added, and utterly pointless. Yeah, that probably is a good propaganda watch story right there. You know, if you're going to do propaganda, you need it to work. You know what I mean? You need it to actually do what it's intended to do and fool people into making them think that Melania Trump is a good person and that she's like the brains behind the blubber. But it's no, I think in I want to say I read some story, saw some article that said it opened in Boston and nobody showed up. And there were supposed to be like these conservative people on the red carpet to go see it, and none of them showed up either. Aw, sad face. That's the thing, that people are starting to figure out this propaganda. They're starting to come out of their propaganda cocoons and turning into awoken butterflies, learning how the world actually works and just being very sad about it. Because that's the thing. Once you learn how the world works, it's pretty much game over. All your happiness goes out the window, and you just kind of sit there and go, why, God? Why are we doing this? Here's another one. We're going to shift over to Iran with the Supreme Leader. What are you doing? You're supposed to. There you go. Supreme Leader warns of regional war if Iran comes under U.S. attack. Yeah. So let's fuck with Iran. Why don't we do that? Sure. We're the dumbest people on the planet. Let's see. Yeah, you can't even see that. All right, let's just do this. There he is right there. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei in another public event in Tehran. Americans must realize that if they ignite a war this time, it will not be a limited war, but a regional war. Basically saying, you fuck with us, then we fuck with all your friends around here. The U.S. should know that if they start a war this time, it would be a regional war, Khamenei said on Sunday during a speech commemorating former Supreme Leader Ruhollah Khomeini's return to Iran after exile. Trump regularly says that he brought ships. The Iranian nation shall not be scared by these things. The Iranian people will not be stirred by these threats, he went on to say. What the? You can go away, sir or madam. They seek to occupy Iran and restore their dominance over its resources, oil, politics, security, and international relations, just as during the Pahlavi era. This is the main reason for their hostility, and the rest of their claims, such as human rights, are just empty talk, the Supreme Leader added. Yes, the United States has no reason talking about human rights when they're murdering their own people. Referring to U.S. threats and the deployment of aircraft carriers, Khamenei said these statements are not new. Of course, we are not the initiators of war. We do not seek to oppress anyone. We do not seek to attack any country. However, anyone who seeks to attack or cause harm will face a decisive blow. Iran has repeatedly vowed to forcefully confront any attack, but also stresses it's ready for dialogue based on mutual respect and without dictates. Well, you're not getting the mutual respect. That's not happening. They can talk all they want, but they're not doing that. That is not happening. Yeah. So Tehran has been calling on Washington to drop its demands for Iran to give up enriching uranium, destroy its stockpiles of already enriched uranium, significantly limit its missile program, and cease support for resistance movements across West Asia. To which Iran said, "Go fuck yourself." Head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Ali Larijani, said on Saturday that contrary to the atmosphere being created by artificial media warfare, the formation of a structure for negotiations is underway. Okay. So Trump, speaking to Fox News, said Iran is talking to us, adding that we'll see if we can do something. Otherwise, we'll see what happens. So it's a big old nothing burger there. While referencing past negotiations that didn't work and stressing he would not share Washington's plan with Gulf allies. Days earlier, on Friday, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi traveled to Ankara and held de-escalation talks with his Turkish counterpart. Washington's aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, has arrived in West Asia with several accompanying warships. Washington has also deployed additional fighter jet squadrons to the region. During the week, Trump said that a beautiful armada, Jesus Christ, is headed towards Iran, calling on the Islamic Republic to capitulate to U.S. terms and come to the negotiating table. Our brave armed forces are prepared with their fingers on the trigger to immediately and powerfully respond to any aggression against our beloved land, air, and sea. The valuable lessons learned from the 12-day war have enabled us to respond even more strongly, rapidly, and profoundly, Araghchi said on Wednesday. Iran's UN mission also said this week that Tehran is prepared to respond like never before if the country comes under attack. They're stealing Trump's lines. That's what Trump would say. We're going to respond like never before. It's going to be the biggest response ever. You're going to love it. It's going to be crazy. We're going to have balloons. We're going to have a cowboy on a pony. The Iranian military says both Israel and the regional countries hosting U.S. bases will be targeted if Washington attacks. So, yeah. He's talking to the people there. He's quoted as saying, "I get knocked down, but I get up again. Oh, you're never going to keep me down." Oh, he's got a gun. Look at that. He's pistol packing mama right there. Or pistol packing Khomeini. So, yeah. So, we keep fucking around the world. Doing dumb shit. And fucking with the wrong people. And this is the United States is fucking around, but we know what comes after fuck around. It's the find out portion of the show, and that's going to happen. Let's see what else is going on here. Let me see what's going on. Bella, what's up? Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. I could probably put this away. Yeah, if you're joining us late, we're just doing a little mini show here, kind of a rap session for the kids. You know, when it's at the hello, fellow students. That meme, that's what we're doing. One hell of a time to enlist in the military. Yeah. I know, right? I bet you those numbers are still down. They're letting anybody and everybody into ICE. Yeah, you know, they keep saying, well, you get a $50,000 bonus eventually. They don't say the eventually part, though. They just say $50,000 bonus. What we got over here? So, yeah, it's a little we're doing a little test stream, but actually doing some newsy news up in here too. Let's see. Have we taken over? We're already on there. Okay. Have we taken over Greenland yet? I haven't really been paying attention to that. That just sounds like some dumb shit. Let's see. Let's see what Al Mayadeen is doing over on this side. So Pentagon defends new new press restrictions. What? This is from Al Mayadeen. So Pentagon defends new press restrictions as New York Times lawsuit moves forward. Oh, this guy. These Pentagon spokespeople, any of these spokespeople in the government, they're just awful. The Pentagon has defended new restrictions on media access as a necessary step to protect national security. Take a drink. Every time you hear national security, it's the drinking game. Take a drink, but be careful. Don't destroy your liver. In response to a lawsuit filed by the New York Times accusing the Department of Defense of violating constitutional protections for journalists. Over there. In a court filing submitted late Friday, the Pentagon argued that its October 2025 policy outlined explicit and clear standards for conduct intended to prevent activities that could compromise national security, such as reporting on the truth. Apparently, the Defense Department stated that the restrictions strike a, quote, reasonable balance between press access and national defense following the Times December lawsuit alleging violations of First and Fifth Amendment rights. Good morning, Willie. Happy Sunday to you. I'm at Olive Garden instead of Denny's. What? Oh, you're at the other office. When they ask me if I want ice in my drinks these days, I usually tell them no, thanks. I'm boycotting ice. But tis. Willie, you so stupid, Poppy. You so stupid. Thank you, Willie. I appreciate that. That's weird. How come that's not up there anymore? Okay. So under the new policy, reporters must sign a 21-page agreement that is basically it's an NDA that limits traditional reporting practices such as requesting tips or contacting Pentagon staff without approval. Failure to comply can result in the revocation of press credentials. The rules replaced a long-standing, more open system that allowed credentialed journalists to move freely within the Pentagon and work from an on-site newsroom. Following the policy change, dozens of reporters declined to sign and returned their credentials. The Pentagon subsequently reorganized its press corps, welcoming commentators and influencers seen as aligned with the Trump administration. Wow, yeah, shocking that they'd have, their mouthpieces in there like that. The New York Times argues that the new restrictions are unconstitutional, claiming they allow the Pentagon unfettered discretion to revoke access even for journalists engaged in lawful news gathering. The policy is an attempt to exert control over reporting the government dislikes, said New York Times spokesperson Charlie Statlander. There can be only one. Referencing the lawsuit's claims that the rules undermine both First and Fifth Amendment rights. The lawsuit also cites a social media post by Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell, who accused mainstream media of being activists and praised the new press corps. So the First Amendment, established in 1791, the First Amendment protects fundamental freedoms related to expression, religion, assembly, and petitioning the government. Specifically, it guarantees that Congress cannot make laws that establish a religion, they've already done that, prohibit the free exercise of religion, depends on your religion. If you're a Muslim, probably not so much. Abridge freedoms of speech, done that. Abridge freedom of the press, definitely done that. Restrict the right to peaceably assemble, yes, they've done that. And restrict the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. The Fifth Amendment provides legal protections in criminal and civil proceedings, focusing on due process and protection against government abuse. The key rights include the right against self-incrimination. You cannot be forced to testify against yourself. I plead the Fifth, that thing. Double jeopardy protection. You cannot be tried twice for the same offense. due process of law. The government must follow fair procedures before depriving someone of life, liberty, or property, which means you can't do public executions like they do in Minnesota there. Grand jury requirements. Serious federal criminal charges must be approved by a grand jury for capital or infamous crimes. Eminent domain protections. The government can take private property for public use only if it provides just compensation. And example in practice, if arrested, you can remain silent to avoid self-incrimination, and the government must provide legal procedures before punishing you. Again, no public executions are allowed. The Pentagon rejected the accusation of viewpoint discrimination, saying it adjusted the policy in consultation with media representatives. I wonder which media representatives, and emphasized that the new rules do not ban constitutionally protected journalism. However, the department warned that journalists who seek classified or sensitive unclassified information or encourage personnel to break disclosure laws could be deemed a security risk and have credentials revoked. If the aim was to force out legacy news media, the department would not have accommodated so many of their requests and concerns in the issuing, the filing stated. So the New York Times has asked the court to strike down key provisions of the policy and restore the previous system. Both parties have agreed to skip discovery, placing the case on a fast track. Oral arguments are scheduled for March 6th of this year. So, yeah. This is keeping an eye on the fuckery of our government and what they're doing. And there's still people who defend them, right? Like the whole Alex Preddy assassination. Oh, he shouldn't have brought a gun. What? Aren't you the guys that said, you know, guns are good. Guns, more guns. Give me more guns. Nom, nom, noms. Nom, noms. The guns, noms. Right? And then all of a sudden it's like, well, shouldn't have brought a gun. Now, if they had said, well, he shouldn't have brandished the gun at the cops or at the agents, if he had actually done that, then they might have a case, right? Because you really don't want to go waving around guns at somebody. But at this point, we might actually start seeing that. Not saying, just saying. I'm not a big fan of violence, but like Sam Kinison said, I know it turns Mr. Hand into Mr. Fist. This is, let's check in on Russia and Ukraine. Well, mostly Ukraine. Zelensky doesn't want to go anywhere. He gets free cocaine from the United States, you know. As Zelensky hints at staying in power. I don't want to go anywhere. Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky has suggested he may seek another term as president, while his government has moved to extend martial law and general mobilization for another 3 months, again preventing national elections. So, yeah. That's funny how that works, how you can just seek another term without there being elections for it. In a wide-ranging interview with Czech public broadcaster Český rozhlas, published on Friday, Zelensky acknowledged growing domestic strain, including battlefield manpower shortages, while urging draft-age men living abroad to consider returning to come die for Nazis. To help ease pressure on frontline troops. He's also said peace talks with Russia, backed by the U.S. and Europe, were in their hardest phase. Asked directly whether he would seek another term, Zelensky said, I don't know. It depends on how this war ends. Pressed on whether he had thought about running again, he added, sometimes I do. The comments came as Ukraine's parliament approved Zelensky's bills in January to extend martial law and general mobilization for another 90 days, running from early February until May, and again, barring elections. Critics say the repeated extensions have kept Zelensky in power beyond his term, which expired in May 2024. Moscow has called him illegitimate, while Trumpy last year branded him a dictator without elections. And also, Trump added, not a bad idea. Let's do that here. In December, Zelensky claimed elections would require legal changes and security guarantees from Kiev's Western backers. Later that month, ruling party faction leader David Hassan Pfeffer Incorporated said authorities were considering a hybrid vote, including online. Surveys by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology showed trust in Zelensky declining last year amid a corruption scandal, while Western media said the Energoatom case damaged his standing. Sorry for the butchering, but if you watch his show enough, you should be used to that by now. Valery Zaluzny, Ukraine's former commander-in-chief who now serves as ambassador to the UK, was polling ahead of Zelensky in a hypothetical presidential vote. Ipsos reported in January, and roughly 23% support compared to about 20% for the incumbent, though he has said he does not plan to run. Reports of political maneuvering have also dogged Zelensky's office. In October, Politico described what it called a stealthy, albeit rough effort by Zelensky's team to prepare for elections while sidelining rivals through legal cases. His predecessor, Peter Poroshenko has faced sanctions and corruption charges that could complicate any comeback bid, while veteran politician Yulia Tymoshenko has voiced similar complaints about pressure on the opposition. So I guess Zelensky is not going anywhere anytime soon. Just hanging out with the gang. He decided he wanted Iceland instead. He said he wanted Greenland at first because he thought it was green, but then he saw the snow and the thick layer of ice, and he said, well, we already have ice. What do we need more ice for? Right. That's not what he said. I made that up. Fake news. What's going on, everybody? Thanks again for the $5, Willie. That's pretty cool of you to do that, kind sir. Let me do the little things over here. We'll do that and a little some of that. There we go. Beautiful. Again, if you're joining us, we're just kind of winging it today, just having a little rap session, talking about various stories that's going on. I'm thinking about just doing this show once a week now, since I do the Undercurrent with Laine on Wednesdays. I was thinking maybe doing like a Friday morning show where we have news and we kind of update stories that happen during the week. We'll have our usual propaganda watch and stuff, but we're also set up now to have guests fairly easily. Before, it was kind of a crapshoot, to be honest with you, with the technical aspect of all this stuff that's going on. I fixed my camera, so now I don't look quite like Casper the Friendly Ghost. I'm kind of a few shades darker than Casper. So we're trying to, for $5, you want to see my legendary nipples? Well, let's see your $5. Willie's a gentleman. He doesn't ask for nipples. What else is going on? Let's see what, MSF, Venezuela rights activist Javier freed amid prisoner release. Pakistan to boycott T20 World Cup match against India. Let's see. Polls open in Costa Rica as center-right populists aim to extend mandate. Oh, Jesus. What is this? All right, let's read this. Let's read this dumb shit. We go now to Costa Rica. Polls open in Costa Rica as center-right populists aim to extend mandate. PayPal are here. You can do it here if you want. I was just kidding. I'll show them for free. But, if you want to drop $5, I'm not going to say no. Polls have opened in the Costa Rica general election as the center-right populist government seeks to extend its mandate and secure control of the legislative assembly at a time when drug-fueled violence has gripped the country. I thought the center-right was they were going after these drug dealers. What the? Voting stations opened at 6 a.m. local time on Sunday and will remain open until 6 p.m. local time, with early trends likely within hours. Laura Fernandez, President Rodrigo Chavez's protege and former chief of staff, is leading in the polls with more than 40%, enough to win outright and avoid an April 5th runoff. She has pledged to continue Chavez's tough security policies and anti-establishment message. Her closest rivals in the 20-candidate field, 20 candidates, are oh, you could do PayPal. That's fine. I don't care. Whatever you like. Her closest rivals in the 20-candidate field are Alvaro Ramos, a centrist economist representing Costa Rica's oldest political party, and Claudia Dobles, an architect representing a progressive coalition and a former first lady whose husband, Carlos Alvarado, served as president from 2018 to 2022. Both are polling in the single digits, but are seen as the two most likely to compete in a possible runoff if Fernandez falls short of 40%. Fernandez has also urged voters to hand her 40 seats in the country's 57-seat legislative assembly a supermajority that would allow her to pursue constitutional reforms. The current government holds just 8 seats and has blamed congressional gridlock for blocking its agenda. Polls show about a quarter of the 3.7 million voters remain undecided, with the largest group being between the ages of 18 and 34, and from the coastal provinces of Guanacaste, Puntarenas, and Limon. People are tired of promises from all the governments, including this one, even though the government has said things that are true, like needing stronger laws to restore order, said Yason Ugarte, a 26-year-old delivery man from downtown Limon, a Caribbean port city that has been the hardest hit by drug violence. Despite homicides surging to an all-time high during his term and multiple corruption investigations, Chavez remains deeply popular, with a 58% approval rating, according to the University of Costa Rica's CIEP polling. While consecutive re-election is not allowed in Costa Rica, Fernandez has pledged to include Chavez in her government and positioned herself as the continuity of his mandate. So that would be like Trumpy, his 2 terms are up, and then J.D. Vance runs for president and brings along Trump as his vice president, which he could technically do. I think. I don't think there's a law against that. Because then if something happens to J.D. Vance, then Trump is president again. Wouldn't that be fucked up? I mean, look, that's all Trump has been doing. He's been using the courts. He's been using all this legal stuff. He's, invoking some of these, ancient laws that nobody's even heard of. And that's how he's doing that, to try to get around all this stuff. So when some of these libertarians say we got way too many laws, I tend to agree with them that in the fact that we have way too many laws that are outdated and too many laws that are just to keep crony capitalism going, right? I think we definitely need to go through these laws and see what's constitutional anymore, what's not, what actually applies to modern day. But, that's probably not going to happen. Probably not anytime soon. This just came down the pike. We'll go back to Common Dreams. We were talking about ICE earlier. So, leaked DHS memo reveals ICE claiming expansive new warrantless arrest powers. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. An internal legal memo obtained by the New York Times reveals that federal immigration enforcement agents are claiming broad new powers to carry out warrantless arrests. The Times reported on Friday that the memo, which was signed by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Acting Director Todd Lyons, expands the ability of lower-level ICE agents to carry out sweeps, rounding up people they encounter and suspect are undocumented immigrants. Suspect. No proof. They just suspect. Rather than targeted enforcement operations in which they set out warrant in hand to arrest a specific person. They're coming out with these executive warrants instead of the judicial ones actually signed by a judge. In the past, agents have been granted the power to carry out warrantless arrests only in situations where they believe a suspected undocumented immigrant is a flight risk who is unlikely to comply with obligations such as appearing at court hearings. However, the memo declares this standard to be unreasoned and incorrect, saying that agents should feel free to carry out arrests so long as the suspect is unlikely to be located at the scene of the encounter or another clearly identifiable location once an administrative warrant is obtained. There it gets that administrative warrant. Right. Scott Schuchart, former head of policy at ICE under Sleepy Joe Biden, told the Times that the memo appears to open the door to give the agency incredibly broad arrest powers, including the arrest of broads as well. This memo bends over backwards, giggity. Schuchart said to say that ICE agents have nothing but green lights to make an arrest without even a supervisor's approval. Claire Trickler McNulty, it's an interesting name, former senior advisor at ICE during the Biden administration, said the memo's language was so broad that it would cover essentially anyone they want to arrest without a warrant, making the general premise of ever getting a warrant pointless. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Yeah, Claire knows what's up. Aaron Reichlin-Melnick, senior fellow at the American Immigration Council, noted in a social media post that the memo appears to be a way for ICE to get around an increasing number of court orders requiring the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to follow the plain words of the law, which says administrative warrantless arrests are only for people likely to escape. The memo broadens the terms, Reichlin-Melnick noted, so that anyone who refuses to wait for a warrant to be issued is deemed likely to escape. Stanford University political scientist Tom Clark questioned the validity of the memo, which appears to directly conflict with the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which requires search warrants as a protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. So here's how the law works. He wrote, people on whom it imposes constraints don't get to just write themselves a memo saying they don't have to follow the law. Maybe I'll write myself a memo saying that I don't have to pay my taxes this year. I'm going to write a memo that says bacon should be free and delicious for everyone. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to work or not. So they've been getting these administrative warrants, and they need to get judicial warrants to go into people's homes. And then they're just saying, well, we don't need a warrant. We'll just bust in your house, take whoever we want. You know, that's what the Gestapo did. You know, people say, well, is this on? Okay, this is on. Why is that still? Whatever. So here in Chicago, they tried to fuck around with ICE here, and they basically the gangs of roaming ICE agents, I believe, have subsided. Now they've gone back to their regular sneaky ways of getting people arrested. What are we looking at here? We're an hour in. I guess that'll be good. So if I appreciate everybody watching. Like I said, this is kind of a test stream, but I wanted to put a little meat in it, so that it wasn't just me just yakking and testing stuff. I tested this stuff over the weekend over and over and over, so now I needed to put it into practice. And I appreciate all of you who are hanging out here. We'll go a little bit longer. I think Marcus and Teal are going to be on later this afternoon, probably in about 3 hours, I think, with the political matrix. So be sure to check them out later today, if you want to, if you're into that sort of thing. We can check out Israeli fuckery. That's always in vogue, isn't it? So Rafah crossing reopens under strict Israeli restrictions. Southern Gaza's Rafah border crossing with Egypt was reopened today from both sides for the first time in over a year and a half under strict restrictions imposed by Tel Aviv. The exit and entry of Palestinians via the crossing will begin tomorrow. Israel's coordinator of government activities in the territories, that's Kogat, announced on Sunday, which is today. It said the crossing has been opened for tests and an assessment of operation. The movement of residents in both directions, entry and exit to and from Gaza, is expected to begin tomorrow, Kogat explained. Hours earlier, Tel Aviv said the crossing would be open for an initial pilot phase, whatever that is. As part of the pilot for the initial operation of the crossing, all involved parties are carrying out a series of preliminary preparations aimed at increasing readiness for full operation of the crossing, Kogat said. Around 80,000 Palestinians were forcibly displaced from Gaza during the genocide and are seeking to return. There are also over 20,000 wounded and ill Palestinians who are in need of leaving the Strip for urgent medical care. We're closely monitoring what is happening at the Rafah crossing, and several parties will be overseeing traffic at the crossing, said Ismail al-Thawabta, director of the Gaza Government Media Office. A Palestinian Authority-linked group of 40 security officers has arrived at the Egyptian side of the crossing, in line with Cairo's previously announced initiative to train Palestinian officers for post-war Gaza. The U.S.-endorsed technocrats, who were previously barred from entering, are expected to be allowed in within the coming days. According to Israel's public broadcaster, Can, a technocratic committee will enter Gaza in the coming days via the Rafah crossing, and it has been decided not to allow foreign journalists to enter the Strip. That's interesting. No foreign journalists to enter the Strip? Why, they might actually do journalism there. Around 150 Palestinians will be allowed to leave daily. This includes 50 medical patients, each allowed 2 companions. Another 50 will be permitted entry into Gaza per day. The Palestinians entering will be subject to strict restrictions. Individuals must register their names, which Egypt will then send to Israel's Shin Bet security service for screening and approval. All travelers will be subject to a checkpoint run by the PA and EU representatives, as well as an Israeli checkpoint, including body searches, of course, X-ray screening, and biometric verification. Those leaving must also register and go through PA, EU, and Israeli-run checkpoints. They will be required to undergo facial recognition screening. According to a recent Reuters report, Israel is working to make sure that those exiting via the Rafah crossing are greater in number than those entering, in an effort to facilitate the outflow of Palestinians from Gaza and ethnically cleanse the Strip. The crossing's reopening comes as Israel has escalated its daily violations of the ceasefire agreement. What else is new? A massive wave of Israeli strikes targeting shelters, tents, and residential buildings killed at least 31 civilians across Gaza on Saturday alone. And you couple that with the cold weather, too. Since the ceasefire was reached in early October, Israel has killed over 490 Palestinians, destroyed thousands of buildings, and expanded its presence inside Gaza in violation of the agreement. So, same as it ever was with Israeli bullshit. Yeah, why? That's a good question. Why are they allowing this to happen? Because we're having these parades instead of actual shutting shit down. Maybe if we stopped the parades and actually did some actual work. And I'm not talking, look, striking at Starbucks is one thing, but I'm talking about actual strikes, like actual strikes that hurt. And I keep bringing up transportation, right? Your railways, your truckers, your local delivery people, airport deliveries. Shut that stuff down. And then people might start listening, because now you're fucking with their money. And the last thing they want you to do is fuck with their money, right? They can fuck with your money all they want, but don't fuck with their money. Go over here to antiwar. What is this? Antiwar.com. I almost called it antiwar.news. What the hell? Great site if you're looking for good journalism over here, antiwar.com. So let's look. You see, shipping giant Maersk to take over Panama Canal ports after court ruling. What kind of fuckery is this? So shipping giant Maersk to take over Panama Canal ports after court ruling. Danish firm Maersk will temporarily operate 2 ports on the Panama Canal after a court ruled that contracts given to a Hong Kong firm were unconstitutional. The Panama Maritime Authority, AMP, I think that's backwards, announced the changes on Friday, a day after the Central American country's Supreme Court invalidated port contracts held by Hong Kong-based firm CK Hutchinson. The court ruling followed repeated threats from U.S. President Donald Trump that his country would seek to take over the waterway he claimed was effectively being controlled by China. According to the court ruling that annulled the deal, CK Hutchinson's contract to operate the ports had, quote, disproportionate bias towards the Hong Kong-based community, or the base company. Sorry. On Friday, the AMP said port operator APM Terminals, part of the Maersk Group, would take over as the temporary administrator of the Balboa and Cristobal ports on either end of the canal. Maersk takes over from the Panama Ports Company, the PPC, which is not to be confused with PCP. We all know what that is. A subsidiary of CK Hutchinson Holdings, which has managed the port since 1997 under a concession renewed in 2021 for 25 years. The canal, an artificial waterway, handles about 40% of U.S. container ship traffic and 5% of world trade. It has been controlled by Panama since 1999, when the U.S., which funded the building of the canal between 1904 and 1914, ceded control. Washington on Friday welcomed the decision, but China's foreign ministry spokesman Gao Jiakun said Beijing will take all measures necessary to firmly protect the legitimate and lawful rights and interests of Chinese companies. For its part, PPC said the ruling lacks legal basis and endangers the welfare and stability of thousands of Panamanian families who depend on its operation. Tens of thousands of workers dug the 82-kilometer or 51-mile passageway that became the Panama Canal, allowing ships to pass from the Pacific to the Atlantic without having to travel around the northernmost or southernmost ends of the Americas. Panama has always denied Chinese control of the canal, which is used mainly by the U.S. and China. Yeah, so, we have to keep an eye on that, too, the fuckery going on. Dun, 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 dun. What's up, Peace Dove? Panama, oh. Reach down to my legs, ease the seat back. Oh, God, have you seen David Lee Roth recently? Oh, my God. He looks like Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. And he just, it's sad. I'd play a little something, but I don't want to do that to you. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want you to get your memories of Van Halen ruined like that. But, well, this is interesting. I haven't read this yet, but we'll read it together. Trump orders federal agents to stay away from protests in Democrat cities. So Trumpy has ordered the Department of Homeland Security to avoid getting involved in protests in Democrat-run cities unless they ask for federal help. The announcement on Saturday followed weeks of protests sparked by a large deployment of Border Patrol and U.S. ICE agents to Minneapolis and the killing of two U.S. citizens by federal agents there. Trump said on his Truth Social platform that he has instructed DHS Secretary Kristi Noem that under no circumstances are we going to participate in Democrat-run cities with regard to protests unless and until they ask us for help. But ICE and Border Patrol will act aggressively to protect federal buildings, he wrote. There will be no spitting in the faces of our officers. There will be no punching or kicking the headlights of our cars. And there will be no rock or brick throwing at our vehicles or at our patriot warriors. If there is, those people will suffer an equal or more consequence, he said. Our. Not yours. Not yours. Our. We will not allow our courthouses, federal buildings, or anything else under our protection to be damaged in any way, shape, or form, he added. There was no immediate comment from the DHS or the office of Minnesota Mayor Jacob Frey. Trump launched his immigration crackdown last year, targeting Democrat-led states and cities, including Chicago, L.A., and Portland, saying the militarized operations were necessary to remove criminals from the U.S. So why, when they were in Washington, why didn't they go to the Capitol? Why didn't they go to the White House and get rid of those criminals too, huh? Oh, rules for thee. The crackdown in Minneapolis, the biggest city in the state of Minnesota, is part of the largest federal immigration enforcement operation ever carried out, according to federal officials, with some 3,000 agents deployed to the state. The operation began in November, with officials tying it in part to allegations of fraud involving residents of Somali origin. The surge has pitted city and state officials against the federal government, prompted daily clashes between activists and immigration officers, and led to the killings of Alex Preddy on January 14th and Renee Good on January 7th. Only a week apart. I didn't realize that. By federal agents who said they were reacting to threats. Threats with cameras and vehicles that were driving away from them. Bystander videos and witness accounts contradict those claims, however. Thousands of people took to the streets of Minneapolis and other U.S. cities on Friday to demand the withdrawal of federal immigration agents from Minnesota. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and others also challenged the immigration enforcement surge in the state, arguing that DHS is violating constitutional protections. But a federal judge has said she will not halt enforcement operations as the lawsuit proceeds. Department of Justice lawyers have called the lawsuit legally frivolous. I guess that's people from, that's Washington, D.C. protests right there. Al Jazeera reports Trump's latest announcement signals a softer tone from the White House on the immigration crackdown. He noted that it followed the Trump administration's decision to replace the senior border commander, Greg Bovino, that cute little fellow, who had been leading the crackdown in Minneapolis, with border czar Tom Homan. The top official said on Thursday that federal agents would focus on targeted operations in Minneapolis, shifting away from broad street sweeps that have drawn outrage, and that he would reduce the number of agents deployed to the city if he received cooperation from state and local leaders. Particularly the voter roll things that they were looking for. All this signals more cooperation between local authorities and federal officials, which has created a little bit of a sense of optimism here in the city that tensions may be beginning to calm down, said Rapallo. I guess that's the guy from Al Jazeera, or whoever that is from Al Jazeera. But that doesn't mean that the unrest is over. If anything, what we're hearing from protesters here is that without a full withdrawal of federal troops, there won't be an end to these protests that we're seeing on a daily basis. So they're toning down the Nazism a little, just a smidge, Teats. I'm gonna check first. I don't trust you. Let's see here. Hang on just a second. Oh wait, I got a thing. Wait a minute. Okay. Teats. There you go. Showed you my teats. Teats. There you go. I said I would. Now you had to see it. Thank you, Fingerman, for the $5. That's cool. See, I made good. I made good. I probably scared everybody off. And there goes the concurrent viewers. That's trickling down, but that's all right. It was well worth it. Yeah. So anyway, let's get some programming notes before I get out of here. I want to just do a little show today. So the show is going to be basically the same. It's just going to be streamed out. Not as many stories. We'll still have our propaganda watch. Of course, we'll shout out all the folks that are needing mutual aid as always. Those links are in the description down below. And if you know anybody that that has like a GoFundMe or something like that, or raising funds, they're in trouble, they have some legal issues involving the state, or they're just hungry and they need some food, let me know. Just send me an email, or if we're pals on Twitter, you can send me a DM, or you can email me at ExtraBulla at gmail.com, and we'll put them up and get spread the word as much as we want. What's up? Undercurrent in the house. Laine did a couple little solo videos yesterday. That was nice. Well, you promised me cash, and I did it. So right now, like I said, we're still doing the Undercurrent on Wednesdays. Friday, I'm thinking Friday mornings I'm going to do a big show, maybe up to 2 hours for this show. And like I said, we'll just kind of recap the week, but also have news, top stories, that sort of thing. And then the secret show, I'm toying with the idea of moving it to Friday nights at 10 p.m. Central. Well, that'd be 11 p.m. Eastern. Because it's getting to the point where staying up that late is not a viable option for me or my body. Maybe an hour earlier. And I posted a poll on the YouTube channel, and the majority of you said to get rid of the AI stuff, so we're not going to have AI stuff on there anymore. Because the people have spoken. This show, like I said, we'll continue to do what we do. So probably like a Friday morning, Friday night thing. Like Friday morning do morning extra, and then Friday evening or Friday night do the secret show. It's one of those things. So if you're I'm like I said, I'm also doing this as kind of a test stream today too. I wasn't planning on doing a live stream today, but I said screw it, let's test this out. Let's kick the tires. Let's see how far this will go. If anybody is finding any, like, if the audio sounds terrible, if you don't like the graphics, just let me know in the comments, and we'll make the necessary changes that we need to do. So it was a fun little thing to toy with at first, but, with these data centers that's getting out of control and destroying people's communities and jacking up utility prices, I don't want to really lend too much to that anymore. So, and we'll hopefully have some more live people type stuff on there. There's always fun stuff to show on there. So this show will be back next Friday morning, at the same time, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and 8 a.m. Pacific Time on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. Of course, you can catch me with Laine on the Undercurrent on Wednesdays. We're changing that time to, or that time is changing. So instead of 10 a.m. here, it'll be, instead of 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific Time, it'll be noon on the East Coast, 11, 10, and 9 a.m. on the West Coast for the Undercurrent. That's starting this Wednesday. So this coming Wednesday, as we're already into February. Tomorrow's Groundhog's Day. So we'll see if Stephen Miller sees his shadow in hell. We hope so. Because that would mean he'd be dead and he'd be in hell. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I appreciate all y'all's for showing up today. It was a fun little test here. And I will see you on Wednesday. And then again Friday for this show. So take care, everybody. Peace. Peace, and chicken grease. You know the thing. Bye. Oh, I didn't do that. I could do this.
This is City Alpha 5. Woo!